Hey everyone, welcome back to the Every Calorie Counts podcast. Today we have a special guest, Trey Bruffey, with us, who is a coach. Yeah, you've been saying it wrong, Tim. Who is a coach with integrated muscle and health. Hi Trey, how are you? Give us a little autobiography. What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I've been on here one other time. Tim might still have the episode on here.
For sure.
It's definitely very different than what this one was. I can tell you that much. So I'm Trey Bruffey. I work with Austin Sal at Integrated Muscle and Health. This is a newer thing. Before that, I was doing my own thing. And once he made that offer, that's something I've been working to do with him for 7 years now that I've been mentoring with him in some shape or form. So that's always been a goal, is to work under him. So I do the full-time coaching thing, bodybuilders. Functional health is more my main thing with IMH, but I also personal train at our house full-time as well for about 20 to 25 hours a week. So I've been in the industry 12 years. Yeah, maybe 12 years I've been coaching and personal training.
How old are you now, Trey?
I'll be 29 December.
Wow, dude, I feel like you've been around longer than 12 years, and I would imagine that you're a little bit older than 29.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just so
Age is
fucking old that
awesome.
I feel like I want everybody else to be up there with me, but nobody
Right.
really is.
Yeah. So I've been around the corner for a while. I'm just kind of one of those quiet guys that keeps himself and just works, but that's me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we were actually going to go down this path before we just hit the record button, and Marina had to tell me to shut up a little bit. But the one thing that I was going to say was that it's Trey's come a long way, I think, honestly, from the outside looking in, at least. As far as like, and I guess you can kind of really like you can give us more of the background in general, but you're no longer with Rogue, right? You're doing this full time now.
Nope. I left. New Year's Eve was my last day.
Nice. So yeah, so last time you were on, you were still with Rogue. You were kind of developing still, even though you'd been coaching for a while. You were kind of still developing that side of things. It wasn't yet a full income, right? So it was one of those things that you kind of worked your way into. I know, obviously, married, moved into the house, built your
Yep.
own gym that looks pretty fucking sick from what I can see. So obviously, we're able to pad the income with the personal training there. But again, dude, the one thing that I'll give it to you in a second, just so you can kind of tell us what the background's been and how we got to this point, and then kind of we'll get into the IMH thing. Did I say that right? IMH or is it
Yeah.
IHM? Either way.
Hey, mate.
Yeah, working with Austin. But the bottom line is, again, I feel like it's almost like I don't know if I'm in a position. I feel like I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to somebody when I'm saying like I'm proud of like it's just cool to see somebody come from where you were to where the conversation that we had in the past to where you are now. And I watched that Instagram live that you, Matt, and Austin did the other day, and you were spitting some straight up fire, dude. You had an answer for fucking everything on there. Seriously, I legitimately got off of that, and I'm like, oh shit, I learned something from Trey. Like I legitimately learned a couple things from Trey on that thing, and it's like clearly you've been doing your shit in the background here to be able to one up that knowledge over and over and over again. So where, like I said, you're on an Instagram live, random questions are coming at you, and you have fucking three different answers for every single question, which was just pretty goddamn impressive. So, and that was after we had talked about having you back on. You know what I mean? So that was just kind of by happenstance. I saw that. But again, it's almost like I hate using that thing like I'm proud of you, because it's just kind of like, cheesy and who am I to be proud of you? But it's like it's very visible, it's very awesome. And yeah, for the lack of better verbiage, I'm definitely proud of you, dude. It's awesome. But why don't you give us the background in terms of leaving Rogue and how you
Yeah.
basically, I think a lot of coaches that listen, and I know we have a lot of clients right now that are actually starting to go out their own process in terms of coaching, training. And we've actually had a few people. I actually have one that just graduated school, got her degree in dietetics and is working through that, as far as starting her own private practice, which is essentially coaching, but with her dietetics degree. So I have a lot of people that would probably be interested in hearing how you went from being kind of a full-time employee at Rogue to eventually getting into your own thing here in just the last couple of years.
Yeah. So first, I appreciate that feedback. You probably saw me getting emotional because that's just not something I hear often. I'm my worst enemy, and I'm one of those guys that always busts his ass to hear that stuff. I'm a words of affirmation type of person, so it means a lot. It means more than you realize. So thank you.
Awesome.
Um, in terms of the whole process, so like I guess last time I was on here, it was the whole drug thing. I was trying to get
Yeah.
peed. I was a drug addict, and at that time, I was like 80 or 90. Was that like 20? Was it 2020? 2021?
Probably somewhere, probably like 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was about like 80 or 90 grand in debt. Like I
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Yeah. I think you
broke
mentioned
it.
it. Yeah.
I was broke as hell, like a credit score of like 400 or 500. Like I had ruined my life. And I was still always coaching, but I never took it serious because I took the client serious, but I never took myself serious because I was trying to compete. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a pro. It's all gonna be all happy, joy, joy. Until I dug deep and realized no matter how big or how good of a competitor I was gonna be, that wasn't fixing anything. That took that internal work. So that was the first thing that I really had to work on. But through all of 2022 and 2021, I spent that whole time still like doing continuing ed, doing mentorship, trying to gain knowledge and get better because during that time when I was competing, I kind of got very arrogant. I was like, oh, I know what I need. No, I don't need anyone else's help. So from about 2018 to 2021, there was no growth there. That's why a lot of people forgot I was even coaching because I just kept to myself and was bodybuilding. So I took that time to do that. The other thing was I had always joked that I was going to work for myself at the end of 2022. I always joked with my wife and our neighbors or friends or with Austin, like, hey, I'm going to leave Rogue by the end of the year. Always was a joke. So once we had built the house and everything, and I had built the gym, we've made it as commercial as it can be, temperature controlled. It does not get colder than 60 degrees when it's 20 below. It doesn't get hotter than 70 when it's 100 degrees outside. It's as controlled as
So the
close.
exact opposite of the barn gym.
Right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exact opposite. Awesome. So I have done everything I can to make that something like, cool, I'm going to make this as a possibility that I might train some people when I figure out how to get back to it. And all that had happened is like during that time, I was obviously like removed all my debt and I'm fully debt free now. That I removed all that and really worked on myself and changed my life and got away from the bodybuilding. And I know that is a thing in the past that I just had to accept. I just can't do that anymore. And so when the whole gym was done, I had randomly gotten a client from Facebook in a Facebook group and just comment. I was like, hey, like, here, yeah, I do offer training. And she had about 30 trainers in the area messaging her. I don't play that game. I might say, hey, I'm here, but it's your job if you want to reach out. I'm not desperate because I don't need your money. I do just fine at Rogue. She became a client, would come at 5 a.m., immediately referred another client, and I immediately got another client from them. So what I would do is every morning from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. before Rogue, I'd work. I'd jump in the car, I'd drive an hour to work all day, come back home, train another client, hammer any messages or updates I have. And that was a 7-day a week thing. And about December or so, I was like, wow, like looking at the books, I'm like, wow, like I might be able to pull this off. Like I think it's looking well. And of course, I bounced some ideas off of like my father-in-law, my wife, Kenneth Allman from Foundry Physique. He's one of my best friends. And Austin. And Austin was really one of the ones, him, Kenneth, and my wife were the main ones that said, hey, like I say, do it, give it a shot. But the thing I explained to everyone is before I left, I created like the ultimate exit plan and make sure we were safe plan. Because the biggest thing I was worried about is in 2020, when the whole world went to hell and I couldn't train anyone, me and my wife were practically going to be homeless. We did not have enough money to survive at all when we were dating at the time. And I happened to get the Rogue job out of blue thing. And the crazy thing is before I got the Rogue job, I had attempted to kill myself. And the day I got that offer, I'd actually planned to be done. And it's one of those blessings, and I'm forever grateful for Rogue because that is what kind of turned my life around, because it finally felt like all this terrible shit that was happening in my life was stopping. So before I left, I made sure to have about 70 grand saved. And I made sure that no matter what, our utilities, our house would be covered for about a year and a half. I made sure that no matter what, we were going to be taken care of. And I knew, at least with the personal training and the current online clients I had, which was only 8 at the time, because I could never go over because of Rogue, because the schedule's so hit or miss. I knew at least, cool, I could cover that. I can cover some food and we can get by. And I was going to give myself until June. If by June this is not working out and I'm not making more than Rogue, I've got to call it quits and I've got to go back to the job force because I can't just live off of our savings. And I don't know how to explain it to you. I still don't know how. Nothing changed. All that changed was I didn't have that negative feeling of having to go to a job where I'm treated like I'm a supervisor, but I'm not paid like a supervisor. I'm the workhorse of the company, of our department, and having to be miserable and everything. That all that changes, I stopped doing that. And I just put my all into the business, treating my clients well. And from there, I went from 8 clients to 40 something since then. And obviously that's accounting for some drop-offs and stuff.
Yeah,
And
of course.
the Austin thing is back in December, that was a conversation he had. He's like, hey.
Well, hold on. Before we get
Yeah.
to Austin, I have a couple questions there.
Yeah.
I want to stop you. So first and foremost, I think for the story resonates with me highly because I was, training. It was where I was at, right? And it was like training and coaching and training. And I had always trained going all the way back to 2003 was my first training gig, right? I always get timeline. I'm the worst with timeline. So maybe it was like 2004, whatever. Bottom line is it was in that area, right? Where you and fucking Marina were still shitting in diapers. So it was like 2003 was when I was NASM certified and I had my job. And at the time I was waiting for my first child to be born. Actually, it had to be a little bit later then. So maybe 2004, 2005, whatever. But I'm waiting for my first child to be born and we're trying to save money. So it was like, I get my first job at a gym training, right? And I had my clients at 5 a.m. So I would be there to open the gym at 5 a.m., would train clients until I also worked and managed the GNC that was down the highway from the gym. The GNC would open at 10 a.m. So I'd have clients to train and line that up until 10 a.m., shower at the gym, head over to GNC, work GNC by myself because it was a low budget store that had no part-time budget. I had like 15 part-time hours, right? So I would be working in that store literally 7 days a week, open to close until 8 p.m. From 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., I'd go back to the gym and close the gym on most days at 11 p.m. to the point where I remember calling my manager, texting my gym manager, like, dude, please find somebody else to close. Like, I'm falling asleep at the wheel. I don't want to do this anymore. I was actually pulled over multiple times coming home from the gym. And the one time the guy, literally the cop got me out of the car and like maybe do the drunk test and all that different stuff. Like literally maybe do like different shit, like what is it? The field sobriety test. And he's like, your eyes are all red. I'm like, dude, I've been up for like fucking 3 days straight. I've got 4 hours sleep. I swear to God, I am not high. I am not drunk. It was in Homedale, New Jersey. I swear to God. And it was one of those things where he's like, he legitimately did not believe me. He's like looking at my car. He's like, are those marijuana ashes? I'm like, dude, what the fuck's a marijuana ash look like? I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, man. Like, how do you know what ashes are what ashes? But whatever. At the end of the day, it resonates highly with me because of that. And then training was like always that thing for me. Where as I maneuvered my way through a professional life, trying to make enough money to, provide for the kids and whatnot, pay rent and all that, I went through multiple different places, right? GNC, Vitamin Shop, where I did make good livings there in terms of working through that upper management. But when I wanted to get back into it full time, going back to the gym world is brutal. Like, it's just one of those things where when you leave that corporate structure that Rogue has, and you go into something where you're really more of even though I was working for commercial gyms at the time training, and I was coaching on the side, it was still really up to you as a trainer always to be able to get your own clientele base. But the one thing that I think that we can really hone in on here is like what you said, like you went from 8 clients and nothing changed. Nothing changed. You just stopped working at Rogue and you were motivated as hell. You had to make ends meet is really what your back was up against the wall. But you also, I think more than that, because that's the picture that I think a lot of people paint in these scenarios where it's like the back is up against the wall. Like you got to make ends meet. I just said this. You got to pay rent. But it's also like, I want to be here. Like, I love this shit. Like, this is awesome. Like, I can actually enjoy my day. The weight is lifted. Like, and you don't get to wake up when you want. You don't get to like do this shit from the beach somewhere with like your laptop and you don't have, there's not, there are plenty of restrictions. It's not like there's no restrictions or anything like that. You have a lot to abide by, but at the same time, it feels like there's so much freedom, right? Like you're not waiting to hear from this person. There's no anxiety around what you're doing anymore. And then guess what? Things start to materialize in such a positive way because your mentality becomes so much more positive. And the same exact thing happened to me. The last gym that I left, the commercial gym that I left where I worked for the gym, I was bringing in all of my own clients. The gym had a thing where I could bring in my own clients. They didn't have to have a membership. They would just pay for their training for the day. The gym would take their cut, give me my cut, but I was a paid employee of the gym. When I wanted to go out, I actually got a sponsorship that was paying me $1,000 a month. right? And the gym got word of it, and they were like, no, 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 no. There's none of that. If you make a sponsorship, if you're making money, we want a percentage of it. That's the way this goes. So they wanted me to give them a percentage of my sponsorship money. And I'm like, what the hell? They tried to serve me a contract that basically says, like, you have to sign on, no more every calorie counts. You either Tim at Ovox, which was the gym that I was
Non-compete.
at. Yeah, exactly. But it was a hard non-compete though. That also stated that there was revenue sharing essentially, where it was like, if you're making something, we get a percentage of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, are you guys out of here? I'm like, there's no effing way, right? So we amicably split. But by the time I left, it was an amicable thing where it was like, okay, finish out the month here, because I had coaching going through the gym as well. They were doing my monthly coaching. So everything that I was making was going through this gym. I left 4 hours later. I get a phone call from one of my best clients, Mark Glickman, one of my best clients, right? Would train with me, whatever it was, $100 a session, 5 times a week, right? Called me up. He's like, hey, what the hell's going on at the gym, man? The owner of the gym just called me. He said, if I stay with the gym, he'll give me endless free training sessions until I find another trainer that I like. I'm like, you son of a bitch. So it's like this hard scramble. Everything was chaotic. But you know what happened? I found a gym where I was able to do my own thing. I paid rent at the gym. I did not get paid by the gym. But it was scary because I was also leaving the security of that place. But again, that positivity took over. Everything was going in the right direction from a business standpoint. And guess what I did? Nothing essentially different. I was just able to convey that positivity led to more clients. Things started to build on its own. That's also just happenstance. My coaching took off then. COVID put us into the ground. Things went up even higher from there with coaching for me. And it was just one of those things that materialized on its own because of that. So I think there's something there. I don't know exactly like, again, I think the positivity thing is a big part of it. I think you have to genuinely love what you do. Go ahead.
I think that's one. The other thing, me and Austin talk about this all the time. It's the gun to the head mentality.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling
Like
you,
I said, I was trying to go in the opposite direction of the gun in the head mentality because I think that's true too. I'm with you, and I want to hear what you're going to say. But I also think that it's as much as there is a gun to your head. It's like, how do you make that sound more positive? Because that's the way that I view it. You know what I mean? Where it's like the gun is to the head. We got to pay rent. I got kids to feed. Like we got to get this shit done. But at the same time, it's almost like, I want to do this now. It's not like dragging my ass every day to a situation that I'm not happy in. I want to do this. I'm not working for somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Tim, sorry, I don't mean to cut anyone off, but to your point, Tim, like before we started recording, I was just saying, like, of course, like when I quit my job, I didn't have many things. I didn't have kids. I don't have kids to feed.
Yeah.
I had moved out. I didn't have a rent anymore. My parents were fully open to, helping me out and like making it work for me, making it easier, move back in with my parents. So truly, I didn't have a gun to my head, right? But like to Tim's point, the biggest difference that like I saw when I started doing something that I loved was like when I wake up in the morning, I'm excited, I'm eager, I'm like, excited to get out of bed and like step my feet on the ground, as opposed to when I was working a corporate job. I would wake up and just want to shut my eyes again. It was so hard to get out of bed. So to your point, like that energy and that positivity, I think truly does make the biggest difference in day to day and how we act and how we do our jobs.
Yeah. And you can say there's no gun to your head, but at the end of the day, I guarantee you there's an underlying thing with you where it's like, this has to work right for me. Like
for sure, because I'm not.
I don't know if you told Trey. Did you tell Trey like where you came from corporate wise? Like she's got a degree, she's an engineer. Like to me, like you being an engineer is like Trey and I are fucking essentially white trash that came from nowhere. We got like $50,000 a year jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Grocery
like,
baggers.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's that. You know what I mean? If anything goes wrong, we're going right back to 40K a year. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, like like this is, for us, it's like for you, it's like when you go back to work, you get a 6-figure income. You know what I mean? So it's like when you transition into this life, it's almost like I have to make this work. And obviously, you're still new within it.
There's something to prove. Yeah. And I definitely feel it. I still feel it like now, like proving, like not just to my parents, but to myself that like, I don't need to fall back on my engineering degree. I don't need to fall back on like the skills that I guess are like ingrained in me, but not the skill that I really love to like do.
Yeah. And if I could just give a little bit more for everybody that's listening, because not everybody listening is a coach. Not everybody listening is going to have a path that they want to take or need to take that is going to be working for themselves in some sort of like, I don't think any of us are the entrepreneur types where we're going to use that verbiage, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like if they don't have that type of mindset around it, that's fine. That's awesome. That's fine. But at the same time, I wish, honestly, I had more of this mentality in terms of being able to drive a more positive environment for myself and being able to wake up with a little bit more positivity, being able to like foresee something better for myself every single day in some way, shape, or form that made me more excited for the day, even when I was in a corporate environment, even when I was in a job that maybe I didn't like as much, because there is a thing to be said about the reality of like, yeah, for us, we lifted a weight off our shoulder, but were we the ones that were generating more of that weight mentally on ourselves?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I wish I could go back to so many different situations. Remember, I'm a little bit older than everybody here. I'm 38 years old. But like with that maturity, with that experience, with that fucking wisdom I got, baby, I wish I could go back to certain situations in life when I was an employee and just be that much better, because I know I could have been and I didn't give it my all. And I really, because I think sometimes it's a matter of like we get in our own way, right? We're so down, we're so not into the job that then we start to drag our feet and like
Perpetuate.
yeah, so exactly. So now there is no more positivity, but we are the ones perpetuating the fact that we're negative, we're in a negative situation, and we're creating that and spiraling it out of control, so to speak. When we could have went to work that day with a positive attitude, like I'm gonna nail this shit. I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna, and then what happens from there is results breed motivation, baby. What happens is you get that promotion. That promotion makes you enjoy it a little bit more. You work a little bit harder, then you get another promotion, maybe some a raise on top of that. And yeah, we can look at all the negatives within that. I didn't get enough of a raise. I like this promotion, but I still have bosses on top of me. But again, we got to be respectful of what our environment is and how can we do better within that environment, especially if there is no path out of that. And on the other side of it, if you do have a path out of that, sometimes it just takes some faith in yourself, some maybe even some convincing from the outside, and surrounding yourself with the right people to give you that convincing. But yeah, I think it's a cool thing to hear it happen for somebody in a similar way as myself, because nowadays it seems like people get it so easy, dude. Like it's like, all you have to have is a good social media following, and then as long as you know somebody or you have the money to be able to produce the content. And the content nowadays is fucking cheap 90-second reels that are fucking barely explaining any information. But if somebody associates well with you, boom, you got yourself a client. And it's almost like I know there's still a lot of people that are struggling with coaching in terms of getting their business up in a saturated market, but there's also people that are doing 6-figure incomes, and they basically did nothing to earn it. They've been a coach for fucking 2 years, 3 years. And again, it's nothing against anybody in that realm. I'm just saying, like, I had to work fucking years for it. Trey had to work fucking years for it. And to be honest, Maria, you're in a good spot. You're still working for it. You're not there yet. You've had to put in a lot of effort, and you helped me out tremendously. And I love the fact that you're here. But at the end of the day, I think like you still have a little bit of time to go there too. And it's just being able to focus on that. Yeah. It's like building your physique, no different.
Yeah, like with the social media stuff, like all of my people are organic. Like I'm referral only. No one's sought me out. It's from clients. So like that stuff, like I do a referral program. I do different stuff where people are getting like $100 and $200 for sending a client because people like money. That's how you initiate it. But what I was going to say with the gun to the head stuff, I agree totally on the positivity thing. Like I think that is crucial. Like if you wake up, you're like, hell yeah, I'm going to kick today's ass. I'm going to get better. Like we're going to grow this business. It's going to keep you motivated. But you're going to have those times where you have a dead time. And all of us get it. Maybe every few weeks you remember like, oh, damn, like I lost 3 people. I haven't gotten anyone new. I'm going backwards. And that's where I do think that gun to the head mentality is needed. But everyone's gun to the head mentality is like different. Like I don't always think bills. Like with Marina, with you, like obviously you probably don't have as many like mortgage and stuff. So obviously your gun to head mentality is a little bit different. But yours might be like, hey, like, I don't want to go back to corporate. I refuse to. I will be successful. I know where I want to get. And that's your gun to the head. Yeah. My gun to the head is sure like bills, but I know we can take care of bills. My gun to the head is I will be successful. And I had literally said that when I left Rogue, I will never, ever work for anyone else. Besides, I work with Austin, not for him, but I will never have another boss. I will never have to report to anyone. And then I have other things like bring my wife home. What was that?
I said, I'm telling Austin, you said he wasn't your boss. No, go ahead.
But like, I have other things. Like, I think everyone has that different gun to the head mentality. It doesn't always have to be bills. It could be the eager being successful. That's what mine is. It's to get my wife out of her full-time job so she can personal train full-time and we can start a family. It's pay off all of her student loans. Like all of us have that different stuff that I do think that gun to the head, you're going to have to find something that keeps you always pushing when things do slow down. When things are like, let's say the economy gets even worse, like it maybe will, and you lose 10 clients, you've got to figure out what is going to keep me going versus saying, screw it, like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I quit, or what's going to keep you going during those hard times. Because, like, even with the positivity, even if you're doing exceptionally well, you're going to come a day that you wake up and you're like, wow, I really don't want to deal with these people right now. I'm very stressed out. Maybe you had bad boundaries. Maybe you just burnt yourself out. There's going to come a time, but you can't quit. You can't give up on the clients. You can't back off the business because you have to keep that hot streak going. Once that hot streak burns out, good luck getting it started, because at that point, you're not going to be that guy or gal to go for coaching. So I do think that gun to the head is needed to push you through during those hard times, especially if you are just now starting out. Like, you can want to be successful, but at the same time, you've got to have something pushing you. Otherwise, you will fail. And this isn't saying go quit your job. Like, Marina obviously had her plan set up. Tim had his thing set up. I made sure no matter what, we were taken care of. And then my wife kept her job and kept the benefits. So we had a guaranteed income. So in case that what the F happens, we're taken care of. So this whole stuff where business coaches are saying, hey, quit your job, I'm going to make you 50K in a month, and this 10K crap, do not do that. You literally need to spend some time in the grind. And I really do think most people need to work a full-time job and coach. And you need to understand that if you're wanting to do this at a very high level, expect 60-hour work weeks, expect to be working all the time, expect to not be able to go on a vacation all the time, expect if it's a prep client, they might call you at 1 a.m. before a show because something has happened. You better be ready to take care of them if your goal is for them to be successful and for you to put a good product on stage. So I do think if you're doing both of those, that's at least preparing you where it's grind time. Like, if you don't know how to do that, you will ultimately fail.
Yeah, that's what we've talked about that before too, where it's like, I got my first glimpse of this when I was in the corporate world. And I remember having very real conversations with people that were above me. When I worked at GNC, I was just a store manager, like a million people that I'm sure are even listening have been, right? Everybody's been a store manager at GNC or Vitamin Shop at some point, right? But, or an employee at the very least. But I managed stores all the way through. And then it was, they have a thing called senior store manager where you help manage a few stores within your market. But then I became a regional sales director. And when I became a regional sales director, it was one of those things where it was kind of like, hey, nobody's going to call you in the morning and tell you this is what your schedule is. Nobody's going to call you every day and tell you that you didn't clock out at the right time or that you didn't do this. What's going to happen is you're going to suck if you're not putting in the work. And then somebody's going to call you and tell you that you're fucking fired. And there's no in between there. You know what I mean? It's like literally either wake up, get the job done, help other people get the job done, or you're not good at this job and you're either going to get demoted or get fired again. You know what I mean? And then when you go up from there, you're helping other people understand that and develop that skill set. So it's one of those things where I think that was one of the early lessons I learned working that within the corporate structure, to your point, Trey, you know what I'm saying? That allowed me to then be successful as a coach, because it was one of those things where even as I was coaching, there was no, just like we've all said here, right? We all started with whatever, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 clients, and then eventually got to a point where we had whatever it is, 50, 60, 70, 80 clients, right? And sometimes more than that for a lot of coaches. And the point is that, for me, it was one of those things where when I had 12 clients, it was kind of like, was I on top of them? And like, did I enjoy it and all that? Yeah, but I could do that in one day. You know what I mean? Like literally I could do that. And then, when people had little communication here and there, I could do text messages, phone calls, no problem. You know what I mean? Then when it became 20 clients, it was like, wow, it's getting a little bit more, but still very doable, even on top of my full-time job. Right. And then it turns into 30 clients. You're like, oh shit. Okay. This is getting to be a little bit, I have to actually get more organized. And then all of a sudden you get 40 clients, 50 clients. You're like, wait a second, dude, this is actually a lot going on here. You know what I mean? You actually have to manage your time. You have to be strategic with how things are happening. Check-ins need to be done on certain days within certain timeframes. You can't accept these random check-ins and these random conversations at all different times, right? You have to be more programmed and scheduled. So it's one of those things where it's like, you'll learn these skills along the way for sure, but you could also learn them very effectively within a corporate structure, within a corporate world, trying to be the best employee that you can be before you go out to be the best owner that you can be. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot to be said there about that. But now fast forward, we're now I think that was a pretty good one though, right? We got a lot of info from that little segment. But now, so now you are establishing something on your own. You're working, for yourself. Everything's going pretty well as far as consistent business coming in. And obviously that's coming, like you said, from organic, like referral systems and all this different stuff. And you're treating your people well, which is another lesson in and of itself. But now Austin comes calling.
Yeah.
And for
So
those that don't know, I've talked about Austin Stout 65,000 times before. I'm always giving him blowjobs on every podcast I'm on, which I like in Ohio, that might sound really gay. And actually, I should say that. Can we bleep all this out? Yeah, whatever. It's 2023. I got to be careful with my words now. But yes. But anyway, everybody's heard us talk about Austin. And again, if you guys haven't picked up on it yet, Trey is now working with Austin under Austin's brand. So go ahead, tell us about how that kind of initiated and came to fruition.
yeah, so like in December when we were talking, like I was talking about leaving my job, and obviously like he had brought on Matt Berzicott at the time. And that was a serious conversation we had, because we've had that conversation a few times of me working for him in some shape or form. That was always like, yeah, the goal was always to run my company and be opposite, which now is just primarily personal training and local nutrition only. And the online is with IMH. The goal was always I really wanted to align myself with Austin. He's the reason why I was in Ohio. I moved here to run the gym with him. Like, he was the person that really changed me and morphed me who the coach I am today, along with others, but he was one of the main person. So we had obviously like talked about that before I left, but it wasn't a for sure thing. And I honestly think the reason why it wasn't for sure thing is he needed me to tough it out for about 6 or 7 months. He really needed me to tough it out and see, can I do this on my own? At the same time, I'm someone that has to do that. I want to be the one that's like, cool, I did this. I didn't quit my job and jump on some coach's brand and have 0 clients at all. And I'm only doing it because they're funneled into it, because that's a very real thing. And I have 0 issues with it. I don't. That was just something that I didn't want to rush to do. I really think that I wanted to tough it out and figure it out. But I also think Austin really wanted me to be like, cool, you need to figure out this on your own. I also had other tasks that he had gave me I really needed to work on. I needed to work on setting better boundaries with clients. I had to learn how to talk to clients better. I had to at least be somewhat on social media to a point, even though I hate it with a passion. And I'm trying to think if it was maybe August or so. I got a random message wanting to jump on a Zoom call, and said, cool, yeah. And we jumped on the Zoom call, and the offer was made there. And obviously it was a different conversation than we had from back in December. December, you got 8 clients, you're out of job. Yeah, I'm gonna jump on board. Here, you're very much well established compared to before. You're between 40 and 50 clients. You've got your personal training. You're working for yourself. Is this something you want to do? And immediately I'm saying yes, because I know what that's going to mean. I know it's only going to help me grow. Just like people say there's a guilty by association, there is a positivity by association. Like, it's okay with getting the rub from someone else. Like, this was one of those things. It was like, cool, this is great. And I'm thinking, well, wait, we're local. There's so many things we can bring to Ohio or Columbus or the Delaware area. There's so much stuff that we can do together. That was just something I personally couldn't pass up. And the biggest worry I had was people making that comment. Oh, he left his job. He's just jumping onto Austin's coattails to be successful. And that was further from the truth. And that was a very serious, I think we had a 2-hour call. It was a very serious conversation. I explained of the worry of doing that. But it was the best thing I could have done, because it really was, it kind of reinforced that gun to the head mentality. And the reason is because now I'm not just representing me and my wife. I'm representing Austin, who that is my best friend. He's the best man at my wedding. Like, I am now representing him, and I'm at even a higher standard that I have to hit. And that was something that I just couldn't not do. So I do that with him. I do cover more of the functional stuff. I would say Austin kind of covers everything. He covers the mentoring. Matt Berzicott's more of the prep guy. I'm more of the lifestyle functional guy. And so far it's worked out well. I think we all have a good dynamic, and it's really created something where there's nothing we really can't work on together, either one of us or anything else. And it's really, I think, helped all three of us grow as well. So that's kind of what it's been so far and how it came about.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think that's a cool dynamic. And the thing is, like, I think I don't want to say, I don't want to speak for you, but I think you hate bodybuilders at this point, huh? He's gonna say no.
Dude.
Oh, I don't hate bodybuilders, but I kind of hate everybody's mentality with it.
Here's the thing, like, do I love helping bodybuilders? Yes, I do. The problem is every time I've been screwed over, I had a guy file a chargeback for a full year of coaching because he did not like the check-in process at the end. He filed a chargeback, and there's nothing I could do because I didn't have the proper waivers set up, and there's nothing I can do. But every time I've been screwed over coaching wise, I'm just saying a majority of the time it's been bodybuilders, because they're like, oh, can you discount it for me? Oh, can I jump on a call? Wait, I need to be able to afford my growth hormone, my insulin. Oh, my source went out. Can you send me another one? There's so much liability there that is what got me pushed away. But the biggest thing that pushed me away from it is I more so had to do it for me, because I mean, Tim knows I was so addicted to the drugs of bodybuilding, in terms of that was my drug of choice, because for whatever reason, I had a mental addiction to it. And then it turned into a Xanax and an Ambien and Valium addiction, and really just created a downward spiral. So my way of getting out of that was just not posting as much bodybuilders. I still take them on, but the ones that are bodybuilders, I'm not having them pose like a bodybuilder. They're posing like a normal general population or lifestyle person, because I don't like it when people reach out and say, hey, I know you only help bodybuilders. Actually, no, they're just some people that get really lean and are happy with it, and they look like they could be a bodybuilder, but they're really not. So I like it from the sense of I'm confident in it. It's what got me into it in the first place. What I don't like is that some people are just not willing to change their ways. Some people will have a straight up heart issue or whatever, and we will fix them. And they're like, well, I want to jump on drugs. And it's like, hey, I get that, but I think you need to go more of a safer approach. And we have to keep this in mindful. Like, what is better? Being 35 and doing well in bodybuilding and dying by the time you're 40, and your friends, family, and your children have no father or anything? Or is it, hey, we're going to be more of a recreational bodybuilder and we can do a healthier approach? That's kind of what got me away from it, is the ego, oh, I need the drugs. It's the drug is the focus for whatever reason. And I was like that, but I was also nailing every single thing else. That's kind of what pushed me away. But I also had to look back and be like, what was causing the most amount of stress in my life? It was a constant back and forth between a bodybuilder explaining why we don't need a gram of tren. We don't need 50 IUs of GH. We don't need a hammer, this and that. Like, that was the stuff that was bringing the most stress. But I also had to think back, what makes me love this job? Is it getting some bodybuilder or getting someone to put on a bunch of muscle? I mean, yeah, I like it. What it is really having an impact on the person. That is what it is. It's being able to actually help people and to get that message of like, hey, like, I look amazing. Like, thank you so much for helping me get ready for my wedding, and having that type of impact on people. That is what it's about. And so I just found out that bodybuilding wasn't giving me that anymore. It's actually taking more away from it. So now I'm more so selective. And if I do work with the bodybuilders, they're either a lot older, they're usually at mid 20s or older, like late 30s, early 40s. Or personally, I try to get this young crop of guys between 16 and 20. And the reason is this: when I hear these 16 and 17-year-olds that are already on gear, when they reach out to me, or Austin, I automatically see myself in them. I'm like, cool, this is my chance to fix this, so they do not create the turmoil that I did in my life from 20 years old until 25. I have a chance to fix this individual and get them to understand, hey, you're not going to be a social media star. You're not going to be a pro bodybuilder. You're not getting sponsorships from Muscle Tech that are millions of dollars or whatever anymore. You have to have a career. You have to have ambitions, and bodybuilding is a hobby. Do not ruin your life with it. So that's kind of where I've went with bodybuilding.
we have two cool stories off of that. Well, one kind of douchey story, then the other one's kind of cool. I did a Instagram live with Steve. How do you spell it? Say his last name?
Metropolis.
Metropolis, yeah.
Steve, I was gonna say Metropolis, but yeah, Steve Metropolis last night for like an hour and 40 minutes. It was awesome. And one thing he was talking about was how he's been working with Johnny Castellina since he was like fucking 19
Yeah.
years old or whatever, for literally like 10 years or something. And when he came on, Johnny made him do an entire fucking essay, like literally made him write a 2-page essay about why he wanted to be a bodybuilder because he was so young and he was already taking drugs. So what he did was made him do the 2-page essay. The essay came back good, so Johnny had another thing with him and another call with him, and it was basically like, hey, I'll take you on, but you're not going to touch any drugs for the next 2 years. You don't need it. You're good. Like that to me was like good. I had experiences with Johnny, like you could tell everything else, but like at the end of the day, that's one of those things where it's like that was awesome to hear, honestly. And it's you get them young like that. They're easier to fix some of the bad habits because they're so early instilled. But then on top of that, you could promote those better habits right out of the gate, where it's like, hey, dude, we don't need these things. Look at what we can do with just this. But then it's also on the other side of that. I remember having a guy that I worked with, right? And it was a very, very short period of time because I was like, this is just not going to work, dude. And I remember him literally, like, we got into this thing where it's like, dude, you're not following your diet. Like, what's the point? Like, we were talking about Anavar, like adding Anavar in. He was already on test, already on whatever else he was on. I'm like, what? Dude, you haven't hit your plan at all. He's like, that's not true, man. And I remember him telling me, I just went to the pizza place. It's around the corner. And I ordered nothing but grilled chicken. And I had that grilled chicken and this, that, and spinach that they made me or whatever it was. I'm like, dude, that's not your plan. Your plan is not grilled chicken and fucking spinach at all. It's supposed to be chicken, potatoes, whatever it was, right? Like it was completely, totally not his plan. But he thinks going to the pizza place is the right way for. I'm like, dude, you got to put in effort. You got to put in. And I remember us after that conversation, his literal words were like, I was like, why do you want to do this, man? Like, why do you actually want to compete? Like, what is it for you to compete? And I remember him saying, like, I don't know, man. I just think that it would be so awesome if I could just open up my Instagram and it would say like NPC competitor in there. I'm like, dude, that's the dumbest effing thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm like, this is where it's like, we literally decided like after that conversation, it's like, we're good, man. We're good. So it's one of those things where like, I can see that both ways I can, but like you said, to me, it's always about, being able to help people. And I think that's one of those where it's like, you get to see something through to a point where it's like, we reached a specific goal. Whereas I feel like with so many other people, the goal might be to change their blood work, to improve their health, to do these things. And then when you reach that goal, it's almost like it's one-sided as far as the result is concerned, where it's like, I feel great. It's like, dude, we just got your fucking triglycerides down where your doctor's talking about you have a fatty liver, you need this medication. Like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, but I wanted to lose 30 pounds. You mother effort. Like, this is good, man. Like, can we enjoy this for a minute? Like, this is great. Like, we maybe lose 30 pounds, but like, let's get healthy first. You know what I mean? So I find it goes both ways. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it always takes that communication from coach to client to be able to breathe that kind of like positivity and successful feeling as far as going through the processes. But yeah, bringing it back to like the whole thing with Austin, I think, to me, and I messaged you when this happened directly, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, it's one of those things where it's almost like, and I think I'm a big baseball guy. Everybody that listens knows that by now, but like, it's almost like, you're playing for an affiliate league or like a minor league ball team, and then the Yankees call and they're like, hey, dude, we got a roster spot open. You want to come play? And you're like, fuck yeah, dude, of course I want to go play. Like, to me, it doesn't cheapen anything. If anything, it makes somebody, in my opinion, they're a little bit higher up there because they do have the support system of Matt there, of Austin there, and you guys have this kind of trifecta now where it's like, hey, and I saw it happen on the live actually. Matt's like, hey, I got this guy on Accutane, and you're like, oh yeah, dude, this. And Austin's like, yeah, don't forget about this, and this. And you can see that synergy working, which is super cool. And I hope something that we're starting to develop between myself, Marina, Riley, and Issa. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I think what my point was going to be with the bodybuilding is seeing you guys being able to kind of build that understanding of like, hey, this is where I'm really good. Hey, this is where I'm really good. Hey, this is where I'm really good. And then also kind of like watching over all of that and being able to have those different dynamics working with each other. It's just like, it's a system that's a solid system to be able to get the client results. You know what I mean? It's not a system where you see these people all the time, these teams now all the time, which, especially coming from working with Austin, I was always hesitant to do the team thing. Like, I was always hesitant to do the social media thing and try to continue to build. I almost felt like a sellout doing all this. I've said that multiple times too. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, when you're doing it in a way where it is in a direct reflection, helping, the client, and or in my case, honestly, I want to see Marina do well. I want to see Riley do well. I want to see the people that I take on do well from a coaching perspective. As of right now, I don't take $1 out of anybody's pockets. If you're working with a client, even if we got it through my social media or whatever it is, it's like, great, dude. As long as we're doing well by that client, I want you to get paid for that. And that's the way that we're rolling with it right now. Eventually, I'm going to start to take money from motherfuckers. But, right now, I think it's a good, it's the way that it's set up. It allows us to help everybody that's coming through this system, right? And that to me is like, it's more than just the business side of things. It's feel good. You know what I mean? It makes everybody feel good. And for you guys, there's still that feel good feeling, but it's one of those things where it's like, you get to learn, Matt gets to learn, like you got, like, you know what I'm saying? There's so much more in it for everybody when you have a team that's working like that versus all these other teams that I see where it's like, hey, yeah, you can come on and we're going to help you get clients. And I'm going to take 40% of your earnings, 50% of your earnings. And then they literally get like, fuck. Yeah, they get like 4 clients per year. It's like, what the hell is the point of that? Like, you're not doing anything, dude. You're just trying to make money off of somebody, which again, I get this is a business. I understand there needs to be some level of ability to scale it, but at the same time, how you go about that, I think answers the idea of like, why are you coaching in the first place? Like, why are we all here coaching in the first place? Did you come into this just to get money because this thing exploded here in this world and everybody saw it as an opportunity to be able to get easy income up front for a job that hasn't even been done because you're getting paid up front for it, right? It's one of those things where it's like, it's too easy to come in here and make money with no overhead, where it's eventually going to get abused versus when we see teams like this, where it's designed to be able to help everyone that enters the system. You know what I mean? So it's awesome. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, like with how we're doing it, we're very big on like, and I think Austin like kind of leads it and helps. It's just about all of us being successful. Like we want the team, like we want the brand to really be something. Like there's a lot of stuff that we want to do. And like that's where like Matt sends me like a lot of like that pro men's physique guy, Ben, I posted last night with the skin stuff. He reached out to Matt for
I saw on
help.
the art.
Yeah, he reached out to Matt for help. And Matt just straight up said, I don't know how to do this, but I know someone that will. And he sent him straight to me. He sent another coach's client to me. Like, so we're doing that stuff because we just want us all to be successful. And that's all that matters. We just want a good service versus a lot of these teams, they got 30 coaches on there. But how many times do you see all 30 of them actually together in a room? Half the time you don't even realize they're on there because there's no relationship. Like we're always popping off in our like group chat on WhatsApp, shooting the shit. Like when the national alert thing went off. We were joking. We were joking about that for a bit. But like it's just a really good dynamic that we're just eager to help everyone, but also at the same time, like there's no ego. Like we're perfectly okay with saying, hey, I do not freaking know. Like there's been a few times that like shift workers have came up and I'd be like, hey, do y'all have any experience? Of course, Austin gave his, but Matt also gave me some good stuff that I never would have thought about in the first place. That I think that is the thing missing with these teams is the actual team dynamic and stop thinking me. Like if you look at my social media, you're going to see something about integrated muscle and health in every single post, because at the end of the day, even if they're a client before mine, I'm under that umbrella and I want that brand for people to know like, hey, we are one of the few people that are really trying to take care of you. And that's why like with Matt referring that physique guy, I'm going to give credit to him because he easily could have taken that client and he easily could have messaged me and Austin and said, hey, what to do here? Instead, he was like, you know what? I'm not the best at this. Let me send it to Trey or Austin. And I think that is a dynamic that's missing. I think the humility is missing. I think the ethics and integrity is missing in the industry altogether. That I really think that we all have our thing, but it's really creating something great. And you had mentioned, like the Yankee thing, like that's how I felt when Austin reached out. It's like, wow, like I'm finally being respected and the work I've been putting in is working, because with the number of people he mentors, it's not like he's just throwing that out. Like, so that was like a meaningful thing as a big deal, and it's turned out very well. And I really think we're going to keep providing some good things. I think like Tim, what you and Marina and your team's doing, I think I've always told you this, Tim, I feel like you're one of the few good guys in the industry. And I think your results and coaching and just your dynamic, you're like me. There's some people that are like assholes in the background but you and I are straight up assholes. We're okay with being direct.
Yes.
We have no issue.
What? Who's got to be the asshole? I don't. Am I really that big of an asshole? I mean, come on.
You know what I
No,
mean? You and I are both like.
yeah, I'm
There's a difference
straightforward.
between
Straightforward.
there's a difference between like a dick in the background that's just mean, and then you got someone like, no, I'm an upfront, genuine dick. Like I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just very upfront to you, and I'm going to do what's best for you. And I think that's why like I see people like that tend to be a bit more successful, but we're also not trying to take the 50% from people and saying, oh, let me add another coach and not send them any clients at all. I hear that all the time. So I think that's what's been a little bit different than what I've seen with other places.
Yeah. No, for sure. And listen, man, at the end of the day, we can sit here and wax poetic about it all day, but ultimately, I think that what'll happen here in a relatively short, but you already see it starting to crumble a little bit. You know what I mean? Like the whole functional thing. And, I don't even know what was all the rage before that, to be honest with you. The 12-week transformation.
It was safer use bodybuilding.
Yeah, safe for use by, well, even before that, like I said, even general population, it was all about the 12-week transformation. You know what I mean? That started to fall by the wayside a little bit. People are still doing challenges and whatnot, but you've seen that fall by the wayside. Then it was the functional side of things has gotten so big. And now you see it at the top there where people are going back and forth and all this crazy nonsense. But it's also the fact like the teams got so big there, right? In that functional space. It's almost like, dude, are you helping people anymore? How the F do you even know when there's, and you're just like, throwing out these crazy words and like making up these crazy different things that are going on. And like, it's like, we just do this. And then you're selling the idea of this. You're teaching these other people how to do it through a third party. It's like, how do you even have any control over that anymore? It's like, that to me would be scary as shit. Like, really, I don't care how many NDAs you have or how many things that you have people sign. Like, sooner or later, like you're just messing with people's health and you have no idea who you're even hiring anymore to handle that person's health. It's fucking scary. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think what will ultimately happen here, and this is what Austin's always, because I've always been the type where I have almost this anxiety in the back of my mind. Like you were talking about earlier, the gun to the head thing, where it's like when you lose a client, dude, you can ask her, like, I'm very blessed and thankful to be in a position where if I lose a couple clients here, like I'm not going to be in a position where I feel that financially. Maybe I'll make one less YouTube video this week and pay our videographer. You know what I mean? But like, and I mean that sincerely in the sense that I'm very blessed. I'm very thankful. I'm very like, literally 6 years ago, I didn't even have a bank account. And that's not an exaggeration. Like literally very thankful to be in the position that I'm in. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, sooner or later, well, again, my point that I was going to make there was if I lose 2-3 clients, like I'm on it fucking texting them, like I've lost another one. Oh my God, what are we going to do? We got to do something different. Maybe we got to change the way we're producing this content. Maybe we got to change this. Maybe we got to change that. Like we got to do something because at the end of the day, for me, I feel like we're all living in this bubble. Right. And this bubble is this industry and this coaching thing that's gotten so big. And it's like all these people keep coming in this bubble and expanding and expanding and expanding it. Sooner or later, it's going to burst. And the only thing that's going to be left outside of that burst is people that are doing it the right way, people that are doing it in a sense where they're trying to better other people and better the team as a whole, better the clients as a whole. Those are the people that are going to be left with the reputation that they have. Right. And everybody else that's outside that are just living off of these, transformation pictures that they're posting on Instagram, or sooner or later, it's going to come to an end. You know what I mean? And I plan to be here. I plan to do this for the rest of my life, honestly, in some way, shape or form, whether I'm just in the background helping people and Marina becomes the face of the franchise because I'm old and decrepit. Nobody wants to look at my face, or something else happens. I will always be here in some way, shape or form doing it because it's what I love. It's what I like to do. I feel like it's already been an hour, but I feel like we barely got into like, I guess we did touch on everything really, huh? I guess we did. I mean, what else is there to talk about in somebody's life when their life is coaching? How's the wife?
Good. It's hard. That's what I'll tell you. If you're married and you leave and you do this full time, figure out boundaries. I'm telling you, if you don't, it will bite you in the ass. I did not figure it out until it's way too late. So yeah.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I'm saying? Like
figure out the boundaries. But yeah, things are going good. I've accomplished every goal this year. The goal was leave Rogue. It was to hit 100K for the year. It was to work for Austin. And then the last one is pay off my wife's student loans. So that is the last goal I have to accomplish. If I can get that done, I've hit my year that I wanted. And the next goal is get her home. And we would love to be able to start a family sooner rather than later and get her personal training in. She's a physical therapist, but the goal is to get her here and let her do that, because I am limited to what I can do in person now.
Yeah.
My schedule's all over the place, and I'm sure Tim, do you train people still in person sometimes?
I can't, like you said, the schedule, man. It's just too. You know what? I do train. Like I trained her yesterday. I trained Rod. So like, and I was just telling a client to just message me about training. I love. That's would be my advice to you too. Is like try to find a way where you can keep it in there without removing it entirely. Because I know you get inundated and it's just overwhelming. Because and then the one thing is like when you're overwhelmed here, you're overwhelmed physically too. And then you're in those training sessions and you can't find that passion anymore because you have too much going on up here. You're sluggish. You're fatigued. But what happens is you lose those training sessions. And then and the first month, you're like, oh, this is great. No more having to worry about this. No more waking up at 5 a.m. And then 4 months later, you're like, oh, man, I wish I was like drinking my coffee with that 5 a.m. client bullshitting while we're, busting their ass. And like those little wins within training sessions to me, like when you take that set to a place where the person just like they put on 5 more pounds, it's like those things become hard to come by sometimes when you're coaching week to week with somebody. Those little wins you can get every single session. And it's just like, to be honest with you, I miss in-person training more than anything I've ever missed before from a professional standpoint. So my advice would be try to find a way to keep it in there, but it's also difficult, man. It's really hard.
That's what I found was hard. The hardest part was obviously I start like really early in the morning and I work really late at night. It's the training, then I stop. Cool. I have some time to do some check-ins or get some message. Oh, wait, I have another session. And I'm sure you know how it is. Once you get out of that groove of working on check-ins, it takes a little bit to get back into the mindset. 100%. Cool. This person is going through this issue. Okay, how would I address this issue with them? If it's a mental thing or whatever, it's hard to do that. So what we're doing is keep me that 5 a.m. to 12, try to get my wife home from 12 to 5 to do it. And then I go to her work and have lunch with her 3 days a week and cut her off everything. That's my way of being a better spouse. So I will tell anyone is if you do have a partner, kids or anything, you've got to find that balance, but not only for them, but for yourself, because that's something I didn't do. And I started noticing my mental health went way, way, way down. That now that's why I do therapy. It's stuff I think it's a necessity. And that I think, and Marina, I'm sure as you go, you'll see some things you're like, oh, why do I feel this way? Like, well, hold on. Have I taken care of myself today? Like, there's a lot of times I forget that, wait, it's 9:00 at night. I haven't even eaten a meal today. Like, I didn't even get a chance to think about that.
2 meals.
Right. So like, that's the stuff that I'm sure, like, as you get into it and any of us get into it, you're still going to come across. And I'm sure, Tim, like, as you keep doing this, you're still seeing stuff like, hold on, when's the last time I took a day off with my wife and kids? When's the last time that I just stopped? My wife came home and just got up and went and gave her a hug and said, hey to the children. That's stuff that the biggest thing that I wish I would have known when I did this full time is I would have known how to run the business, because I basically learned it all on my own and kind of created my own systems that I forgot the personal stuff, the life stuff.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't do that, it will come up and bite you in the ass. You will fail
100%,
and you will lose everything. It's the same thing like how I was with bodybuilding. I shut out everything for bodybuilding. And when you start being successful in the coaching or whatever your job is, we have that tendency to want to shut out everyone because we're like, cool, I've got this hot streak. I have to keep providing this service. But you also have to understand that money, those clients are not going to forever be there. There's going to come a point that you're going to retire. You're going to be old as hell in a rocking chair. And you definitely want your grandchildren or spouse or someone there. That's the other biggest piece of advice I can give everyone is you've got to keep those interactions up. And you can't let this stuff consume your life, because I'm just speaking personally. I let it consume my life a majority of this year, and it's really hard to get out of that habit. And it does make it harder to live a normal life.
Yeah. I think especially when you have, you now set yourself up to be able to get the job done this way. It's almost like you have to rearrange everything to be able to continue to get the job done at the same level. Right. And it's one of those things where it's like, we talk to clients all the time about, what did you do for yourself this week? You got like stress management, like all these different things. And to Trey's point, like that is a form of giving back to yourself. Is like, me waking up on Saturday morning with the kids and like no steps, none of this, none of that, no getting on the computer, no look at it, it's just drinking coffee and sitting with the 2 kids on the couch, while maybe even they're just fucking watching cartoons or hanging on their iPad or playing Barbies with my daughter. It's like, that just that time alone of being like downtime is in and of itself my stress management. And it's like, it's having little things like that. But yeah, man, listen, it was great to have you back on. I have a new client call here at 11:15, so we got to hop off here. But it's great to have you back on. We'll definitely have you back on in the future again, I'm sure. But congratulations on the year, dude. Lots of cool stuff, and I'm sure it's only going to continue to get better. So yeah, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
Cool.
I love
I
this
appreciate it, man.
episode. Honestly, I feel like, again, like we touched on so many things and a lot of people can take away from it. Honestly, fired me up, kind of reframed the way I'm thinking about things, and just like reminding myself to kind of take those moments to like ground myself. So that is all huge and just really important. So thank you so much. And again, congrats.
Thank you.
All right, everyone listening, thank you for listening. Share with a friend and your mom as always.